It is customary to introduce the speakers, लेकिन यहाँ क्या कहा जाए? वो पूछते हैं कि गालिब कौन है? वो पूछते हैं कि गालिब कौन है? कोई बतलाए कि हम बतलाएं क्या? And here is a brief formal intro of our dear speaker. Professor Abhijit Banerjee was born in Mumbai, India, to economist parents. After a master's degree from Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi, he completed his PhD at Harvard University and currently is the Ford Foundation International Professor of Economics at the MIT. In 2003, Professor Banerjee co-founded the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab, better known as JPAL, and he remains one of the lab's directors even now. JPAL does work in over 80 countries of the world, including India. They are yet not on the continent Antarctica. Professor Banerjee is the author of many books, including Poor Economics and Good Economics for Hard Times. Both he co-authored with Professor Esther Duflo. Poor Economics is a radical rethinking of the way to fight global poverty. He has also directed 2 documentary films. And I hope, Professor Banerjee, you will think of me as a role in a movie, not as a hero maybe, like as a villain maybe in the next upcoming film. आपको hero बहुत मिल जाएंगे, लेकिन villain कम मिलेंगे आपको. Professor Banerjee is the recipient of the 2019 Nobel Prize, or known as Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences. The 2 other recipients are Professor Esther Duflo and Professor Michael Kremer. This Nobel Prize motivation was for their experimental approach to alleviating global poverty. Professor Banerjee believes that money should be put into the hands of the poor so that they can jumpstart economies with low demands. Professor Duflo is his wife and one of the youngest Nobel laureates. What I just said, perhaps most of you know. What most of you do not know is that Professor Banerjee is a great cook and an expert in Bengali cooking. He and Esther love dancing. They are often first on the dance floor and the last to leave. He loves Indian classical music and Bangla poetry. One of his favorite is Hindustani music vocalist Ustad Rashid Ahmed Khan Sahab. Both his parents were professors of economics, and in a way, this is the first economics family of the world. Parents are professors, and son and Bahu are 2 wonderful people and Nobel laureates. Professor Banerjee and Professor Duflo live in Boston with 2 beautiful children aged 6 and 8. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Professor Abhijit Banerjee with this quote from his book, Global Economics for Hard Times. Immigration and inequality, globalization and technological disruption, slowing growth, and accelerating climate change. These are the sources of great anxiety across the world, from New Delhi and Dakar to Paris and Washington, D.C. The resources to address these challenges are there. What we lack are ideas that would help us jumpstart the wall of disagreement and distrust that divides us. If we succeed, history will remember us and our era with gratitude. And if we fail, the potential losses are incalculable. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Nobel Laureate 2019 for Economics, Professor Vinayak Banerjee.
Abhijit, sir, please unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you, Rijvi. I appreciate that very generous introduction. I will plead guilty of ignoring the title that was given for my talk. Since when I talked to Rijvi, he said I should talk about the lessons, my life lessons, and I thought my life lessons were for this kind of talk. Maybe that's more appropriate. So I'll tell you a little bit. But I want to start by telling you, I think, a life lesson from someone else. I'm going to read something that Sir Syed Ahmed Khan said many, many years ago. And I'll read to you. My advice to all of you is only that which you believe to be right, and do only that you believe to be right, and do not do anything the rightness of which you do not believe. This is real truthfulness, and this is the only thing on which depends success in both the worlds. Do what you believe in. I think that's extraordinarily important life advice. It seems obvious, but I would say that we're always, and in these days in particular, of where the media is dominates our lives, where we get messages all the time on the internet, on the in the newspapers, in magazines, about lifestyle, and about how the rich and famous live. And if you open an Indian newspaper, you will see a picture of somebody on some beach in some exotic location. Is every single day. It's an extraordinary barrage of, I think, spurious values that are constantly being thrown at us. So it is not easy actually to even know what you believe in. We are constantly under a surge of kind of messages from the world which try to make us something else than we are. And it's critical that we think beyond that. So I think when Syed Ahmed Khan is saying, do only that you believe in, you have to stop to think what you believe in. It's extraordinarily important, because I think we're not often allowed to get that privilege to be able to know what we believe in. We live in a world where, when I talk to young people, I ask them, what do you want to do? And I often get in, really, at 17, I have a niece who's 17, or now she's 19, but when she was, and you would hear things like, oh, I want to be very successful. I want to make a lot of money. I want to have an extremely comfortable life. As if those things mean anything. I mean, I say this, it sounds, it sounds, maybe you think I should not be saying these things. I have been successful. I'll come back to that. But I think, and I have a comfortable life. But I think it's extremely important to not think that these are real aspirations. These are not real aspirations, because they mean very little. If you think about, it's more things that you are supposed to say, because they show that you are ambitious, that you aim high. These are words that mean very little, other than kind of saying, putting a stamp on who you are. I want to make a lot of money. I'm ambitious, but I think ambition is so much bigger than that. So I want you to indulge me in thinking about why I don't believe these things. So think about, for example, what is it that it means to be. So I think it's important to be able to support your families. Many of you will need to do that. Your families will need help. And I think it's important. I'm not at all someone who says money is not important. We live in a world where it is. But I think it's extremely important to think about what it means in the context of your life. So in the context of your life, there are things you need to do. Everybody needs to do. They have needs from families, you need needs from friends, you may need to support many people. But I think once you look beyond that, I think it's very important to not fall into the trap of taking what people say. Your families will tell you certain things. They tell you, take that job because it will pay well, take that job because it's secure. All of those, I think you have to, once you have decided that you have done enough economically, you have to stop listening. I really think that's critical, because I think it's extremely, the world is so conspired to drive us to do certain things. So you just go back to that, what I said, I want to make a lot of money. What does it mean to be a billionaire? Suppose you made $1 billion a year. Could you spend it? That's like spending $3 million a day. You're going to buy what? A house a day? How will you do it? It just takes too long to buy a house. You know, it will take, you just couldn't do it. You could not spend that money. There is just so much, that's just so much money that, you know, I think the vision of being very rich is sort of a ersatz vision. It's one that, you know, is delivered to us as something very specific, but it actually means very little. What would I do with the money? What is it useful for to me for? If you think about, I mean, I'm very inspired recently by Mackenzie Scott, who used to be Jeff Bezos's wife and is now his ex-wife. She just she as a result of the pandemic, Amazon stock went up and she became even richer than she was. And now she's basically trying to get her foundation to give away money faster. And for the most part, they're failing. They're not even able to give away money that fast. Their processes are stopping them. So I think that she's very inspiring in trying to get them to give away money, not to hold on to it. But I think this idea that there is some meaningful sense in which, you know, being sort of extremely rich is meaningful by itself without thinking about what life you want is, I think, is something that we are constantly told, but I don't think you should believe it. Likewise, being successful. What does it mean to be a CEO? I mean, you know, I know many CEOs, and half of them spend their days worrying about whether their company is going up and down, or whether they're going to, you know, is it the stock price is going down now? So what am I supposed to do? Should I work 16 hours a day? Should I see? I know I was speaking to one last week who said that he sees his families only in the weekend. Is that a life you want? Do you want? Or what's comfort? Is it a big house? How many cars? I mean, I'll be honest. We in Boston have a big house. We're now this year we're spending it in Paris. We have a half or less than half the size of our house. Do we notice it? No. Why? All four of us are always in the same room, wherever we are. And in fact, in Paris, the room we are in happens to be a bigger room. So we have, even though our house is smaller, we're always in the same room, and that happens to be a bigger room here. So it makes, I think we constantly ascribe meaning to things which have very little substance. I think that's a general, the media wants us to do it because it gives us a lot of power over us. Then they can sell us things. So I think it is extremely important to be skeptical of all of these handed down values. And so what does it, what's the other side of it? What can you do? And you're young, so I'm going to speak from the point of view of someone who's 25 and who's thinking about this question, or 20. I think first thing, think of what you want in life. It's not easy actually, because we are so fed ideas that, you know, it's hard to resist them. And it takes time. I mean, it took me many years to, I have written elsewhere that when I joined the PhD in economics, this was in my Nobel Prize lecture, and I said, I didn't really know whether I wanted to be really an economist. I was doing a PhD. Why? Because that's what you do. I had no idea whether I really wanted it. The passion comes later. So give yourself time. Learn what you really like. A corollary of that is don't make commitments, lifestyle commitments early. It's very hard to reverse. It's very hard to go back to simplicity. Start simple. I think it was very, very useful for me to have spent many years with very little money. I think that was a good life lesson, because for the most part, it's really money after a point doesn't make life more interesting. It relieves pressure. It makes you, if you want to, if somebody in your family needs help, you can help them. So that's wonderful about money. But that's about it. I think for the most part, I used to have great fun planning dinners. I lived in a dorm. We could cook. And I often had great fun planning dinners where I would get food from the, vegetables from the dorm and cook them and spend no money and invite my friends. It was a challenge, but challenges are what you define, not what life defines for you. You define your challenge. You say, this is my challenge. I want to have no money, but I'm still going to cook a dinner for my friends. I think it's very important to not, when you're young, especially, don't let yourself be dictated by all kinds of exigencies which are really irrelevant. The other side of it is, therefore, given that you're freed from, the aspiration of making any more money than you really need to support your family, take the job you think that's most exciting and challenging. That's really the right thing to do, both from the point of view of being enjoying it, but also for long-term success. I think long-term success comes from being exceptional at something. And the thing you want to do is the more thing you probably will have a chance of being exceptional at. Give yourself a chance to be exceptional. Give yourself the space to be exceptional. Do something, take the job where you could do something that people will remember you for. I think there is much to be gained by sort of not, having the long view on that, to be thinking that, there is one day I will be recognized for this. That will both give you a long-term success and make you happier. Don't worry about job security. You are here in this program because you are outstanding. Your talent will carry you. Let your talent carry you. If you lose a job, it's probably because you were not suited for it. You should look for something else. And more likely, you're going to leave that job because you'll be so good at it that somebody else will take you. So don't worry about job security. Job security is something that some point in life maybe is valuable, but when you're young, don't look for it. Look for what's exciting, what's adventurous, what's risky, because that's where you're going to get the real chance to be a star, a real success. Work as hard as you can to do the best you can. So it's important to focus on doing the best. But don't lose your sense of enjoyment. Time doesn't come back. You can't rewind. When your children are young, your children are young. You will enjoy that. Those are moments you will never get back. You cannot. So my view when I was that I will sleep after I'm 40. I still don't sleep enough, but in the meanwhile, there's lots of things to do. One day I'll sleep. I'm still short on sleep, but but if you like sleeping, sleep. My wife really likes sleeping, so she sleeps. I think that give yourself the chance to do what you really want to do. She won the Nobel Prize, but she still goes to sleep at 9:30 and sleeps till 7 if she can. Give yourself that chance. Do what you need to do, but also give yourself the chance to appreciate life. Because if you don't, you will never learn what you're enjoying, because you'll be too harassed, too driven to have the moment to think, am I enjoying life or am I just running after something? I think that's critical. And let me say, and this is the last point I want to make, and the most important one. Set your own goals for success. You have to, before you, so don't, when you actually think of what you want to do, don't try to go to big before you know you're doing it well. Think about You set your standards of what is doing it perfectly, do it perfectly, and then go to scale. Some people will touch the lives of many people. Others will utterly transform the lives of a few. It doesn't matter what, Rizvi Saab read us a poem by Ghalib. If someone can write one poem that's comparable to that of Ghalib, they've done enough for life. I think we each need to find what's the dimension in which we will measure our success, and give yourself that chance. Don't let that be dictated to you. And then good luck to you. You all come with talent, and you've had this opportunity. You will no doubt do wonderful things. I'm going to be watching for what's coming. They'll show up on the websites of this wonderful organization, and congratulations.
Professor Banerjee, what an inspiring speech, wonderful speech. I just can't tell you. This was such an amazing speech coming from you. I wish all of us had taken a few of your courses at MIT that you teach. It will make life for all of us so much simpler and better and easier to handle than all the money things we talk about, all the billions we talk about. You give us some very few good, such simple hints. You said, work as hard as we can. Don't lose enjoyment. Sleep if you have to. Excel in what you do. These are such wonderful golden words for all our scholars. Dr. Saab, we have got about more than nearly 1,000 people from about 20 countries watching us on different platforms, social media and webinar and so on. And we have gotten, I'm not sure how many questions, but if you allow me, with your permission, I will give you 2 or 3 questions. This is not an exam. You can take the answers as you wish.
I think if I don't know the answer.
But I will give you the question that you can take a dig at whatever you want. The first question I got here was, let me see, where is it? There's so many questions. Let me go back and, where is that question I had? There is one here. Our education system is focused on grades and ranks. How else can students demonstrate their full potential, especially to positively impact the world? That's one question. And the second question I received was, how has higher education made an impact in life of his peers, and why he decided to pursue higher education outside India? And we had one more question, which said, the model, your observations on the capitalist model of education and universities, which is they throw students into huge debt after they graduate. Your views or comments, you can choose to answer all 3 or 1 or whatever you take, please, at your convenience. Thank you so much.
The first one. So can you read it again?
It said, our education system is focused on grades and ranks. How else can students demonstrate their full potential, especially to positively impact the world?
I think in some ways that goes back to what, that's why I wanted to take it, because it goes back to what I was saying. I think in the end, I mean, there are some standards you'll have to meet because it's useful to get degrees. I don't deny that. But I think beyond that, all of you, you have to set your own standards of success. You have to decide that I am, whatever it is, I am, by doing what I'm doing, I'm really transforming the lives of some people. And if that's 5 people in your neighborhood who you are helping, that's 5 people who are being helped. I think it's extremely important to not have sort of global ideas of scale and achievement. I think they need to be contextualized to your life. And in your life, you will find what resonates, what is really, really satisfying. If you want to sit down eventually just to, have time to write poetry, then you should find a life that just allows that. I mean, I realize that there's some economic constraints on that, and that you will have to meet those. But I certainly don't think that it would be a bad decision. If your compulsion is to write poetry, then you have to write poetry. I know Ghalib had the advantage of being from a wealthy family, and so he could afford doing it. But even for him, it was a stretch. And I think it's what you need to do. You have to sort of take that into account. And the one thing to realize is that it's, 5 years you can do, or you can fake it. But most, you really, when you start doing something that's really satisfying, you do it for life. You'll do it till you're 80. And so you have to find the satisfaction that comes from inside. You cannot just set it down to a set of symbols that you've achieved. I think that that's extremely important. So I think that in the end, beyond some, I think you'll have to check off some boxes. The world doesn't let us entirely get away from it, but I think, and I think in that, going back to the third question, I would say that I think one of the tragedies, and this is actually something that economists, including one of my students, has studied, which is that one of the I would say unfortunate consequences of this debt is that many people feel trapped. They don't actually have the liberty to do what they want to do. It's something to think about. Is that, when you can go to a great university and pay a lot of money, but then that money will drive your life, because you'll have to then take the job to pay that down. Absolutely keep that in mind. I think it's critical that you keep that in mind. That it's you want, in the end, you have only one chance to do what you want to do, and if you get trapped, you're trapped. And I'm very sensitive to that. I've seen too many people just spending their life doing, earning the money that they need for one thing or the other. They pay down their student debt, then do this, then do that. And I think it's very important to stay ahead of that. It can catch you anytime, and so it's very important to be mindful.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अभिजीत भाई, आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। बस आपने इतने अच्छे अल्फाज कहे, और मैं आपने चूंकि शायरी की बात की, मैं एक शेर आपके शान में कहकर आगे बढ़ जाऊंगा। आई विल कॉल द नेक्स्ट स्पीकर, कि ये वसीम बरेलवी का शेर है कि दुआ करो कि सलामत रहे अभिजीत की हिम्मत। दुआ करो कि सलामत रहे अभिजीत की हिम्मत, ये चिराग कई आंधियों पर भारी है। You are doing great work for the poor and the economics for the poor. So all the best to you and your family, and of course for taking this important time away from your family to be with us and join on this webinar. And I hope you'll stay on and listen to the other speeches as well. But thank you, Professor Banerjee. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid I'll have to leave. I have my family and some other obligations. But I thank you for having me. I wish you all the luck with your enterprise. This is a very noble enterprise, and that one that has great potential for transforming the lives of many people. I thank you, and I say goodbye.